Hello, welcome back to Green Street, the series on this channel where we talk about building sustainable cities and resilient communities. Today's topic is going to be food waste, specifically in grocery stores, and then next week we're going to be tackling food waste in household. My mind just went completely blank. My name is Aime and I'm happy you're joining us this week. If you are into sustainability, sustainable development, environmentalism, anything like that, definitely stick around. Like I said, today's topic is going to be food waste, basically part one. We're going to talk about the issue of food waste and then food waste basically before it is sold, specifically in grocery stores. Also a little bit about like farming and stuff, but mostly grocery stores. And then next week, we're going to talk about food waste in households and also retail, basically like restaurants. That being said, let's get into it. 40% of food is actually wasted in the United States. When I was doing research for this video, it just like the numbers were kind of astounding, and in a way it just kind of makes you question why like food insecurity, why it exists, because the issue is definitely not a lack of food. The issue is not a lack of production, it's a lack of access, and it's a lack of making sure the food goes to where it's supposed to be so that people don't go hungry. Even if we're not talking about international food distribution, I think it would be kind of silly to say that we can't at least make sure that the food that is produced here in the US can go towards, starving children. It's just kind of insane. 40% of food that is made in the United States, food that is produced for human consumption, goes straight to the landfill. Well, I guess not straight to the landfill. It ends up in the landfill in various ways. And the issue with food waste isn't even just specifically the food physically itself is created and it ends up in a landfill and it's creating these greenhouse gases. That is an issue. But another component that people often don't even think about is all of the energy that went into creating this food, especially when it comes to animal products, dairy, eggs, poultry. You are putting in so much energy to create these food items, like a burger patty, for example. So much energy went into making the grains that went to feed the cow. That cow had to eat for I don't know how many years. You have to put all that energy into unaliving the cow. You have to freeze it, obviously, because health standards, and then you have to ship it. And I guess in all points of this, in the creation of food, you do have to think about also the transportation of it across the country, even across the world. So all of this energy went into making this burger patty or this package of ramen noodles or this egg, and then at the end of the day, it just gets wasted. When we think about food waste, we need to obviously consider the physical manifestation of the waste, which is kind of easy to visualize, but you also have to think about all the energy that went into creating the food and how all that energy is wasted as well. I talked about the whole 40% figure, which, I'm not the biggest numbers girl. I got a C in algebra in college, which was my lowest grade my entire college career. But 40%, imagine like going to the grocery store and buying all this food, and then you get home and before you put the food away, you take like almost half of it and you dump it in the trash and then put the rest of it into your cupboard and fridge. Like almost half of the food is just not even gonna be eaten. It's just immediately trash, garbage, done, never to be seen again. And then another number that's associated with food waste that I think is huge is that 8 to 10% of global greenhouse emissions come from food waste. Not food production, food waste. 8 to 10% of all of the global emissions are just from food that is created but never eaten. Just think about that. And then I also kind of wanted to break down kind of where all the different parts of food is wasted, because it's not all completely equal. As you can see from this graph with your two eyeballs, 43% of food waste comes from homes, 40% from restaurants, retails, food service, 16% on farms, and 2% manufacturers. These numbers are obviously going to be different depending on the country. I linked down an article that kind of goes really in depth into the variations of which countries waste food where, and it gets very specific, but this is just kind of an overview. And Depending on the source you use, you're probably also going to get different numbers. One source that I looked at said 60% was from homes, like 30% from retail, and 30% from food service, and I don't believe it had farming or manufacturing, so it was just looking at after food is produced. So the number does change depending on where you're getting the information, but overall, the majority of food waste does come in homes, and then the rest of it is spread out between when food is created, when food is being sold, and then food service like restaurants. What exactly does food waste look like in grocery stores? There's a couple different ways, and they're all kind of rooted in capitalism. I don't know, in my opinion. I do tend to kind of err on the side of capitalism bad. Basically, the greed of corporations that ends up creating food waste in grocery stores. I know the grocery store I worked at, if someone returned food, we have to throw it away. I completely support that because I don't want, like, you don't know how long it's been out. That could be bad, that could be like not safe. So there are instances where, okay, I can understand. But like if someone buys like a can of pasta and returns it and it's unopened, that's not something you need to throw out. That's not something that could go bad. And I'm going to link down below a video that is basically like not a documentary, but it's like a news piece about food waste. They focused on Walmart, but most grocery stores I'm sure have the same issue, basically throwing out food that's perfectly good. A lot of the food was like best by date, like months or even years. They would find things that are perfectly safe to eat, that are unopened, just perfectly safe, and they just had been thrown out by Walmart. There's no justification for this food being thrown out. So first is the sell by / use by date. I guess this one isn't specifically the fault of grocery stores because this has more to do with the manufacturers and what they put on their labels. But oftentimes though, grocery stores will throw things away that are still a couple days before the sell by date or a couple days before the use by date. A lot of grocery stores do try to minimize this by discounting anything that's really close to the sell by date or use by date, which is great. But at the end of the day, in the video that I've linked below, you'll see things that are still like a week, a month, even like years in front, like years before the date that is written on the label, and they've still been thrown out. Therefore, that food is perfectly fine, but it's being thrown out. I'm guessing so that they can replace it with new inventory, but this is definitely a point that contributes to food waste because you're throwing away things that are still perfectly safe to eat, perfectly safe to consume. If it's still safe to eat, I don't think it should be thrown out. And I'm going to obviously talk about at the end of the video alternatives to just throwing food out, because if something is close to the sell by date, consumers are less likely to buy it, but that doesn't mean it needs to be thrown into the garbage. So the next one is imperfect produce, and this is something that goes way back to just when food is being produced, and it also goes forward too when people are buying produce and all parts of the system. Food that doesn't look perfect is just overlooked, and oftentimes it's not even harvested in lieu of food that is more pretty. I guess we want to eat food that looks like it would be in a beauty pageant, but I think it's kind of silly. But the fact of the matter is that any produce that has like scratches, too many like nicked extra pieces, like, you know those carrots that are like 2 pieces, maybe it's like a bell pepper but it's like more flat or something, like it's not the curvy bell pepper shape that we're used to. Maybe an apple that's a little smaller than all of its other brothers and sisters. Basically ugly duckling fruit that all ends up either not being harvested, not being placed on the shelves, or not being bought by consumers. In all these different points, just produce that doesn't look good ends up going to waste, and it's a shame because it'll taste the same. So next is something that I didn't know until I was doing research for this video, but this idea that I guess it's kind of it's not like self-explanatory, but once you realize it, it's like, dang, that's so true. Grocery stores like to keep things overly stocked to basically make all of the produce look good. Oh, that's my cat. Is he stuck in the... Whiskey? I can hear him meowing. Whiskey? Why do you always always do that. Every time I open the closet, he jumps in there. I had no idea he jumped into the closet. Grocery stores, in an effort to make all of the produce look good, they'll fill it up really high so that it basically just looks like, wow, this is really like high quality produce. It all looks great. And once it like dwindles down to just like 2 pears, like a single little banana, people are less likely to buy it. So in turn, grocery stores will just keep filling it up. They'll just keep filling it up. No matter what time of day you're there, unless you're there like around closing time, I'm sure. Wait, do they stop stocking the shelves then? I honestly don't know, especially like with Walmart being 24/7. At the end of the day, I'm sure it'll be like maybe half or like less than half full, but they just constantly fill up the shelves so that it just looks full and voluptuous, and all the produce just will look really good and you'll be more likely to buy it. And this is also something that happens in farmers markets, where the more like filled up the shelves are, the more produce available, it just looks better. And once it's like the last 2 potatoes, for some reason people are less likely to buy it, even though it's not like people deliberately didn't choose those potatoes. It's just because those are the last ones, especially because with the point of imperfect produce, all of the bad produce has already been picked out by the time it gets to the shelves anyways. So now you're just allowing more produce to go rotten so they can keep filling up the shelves and people will keep buying the produce. And it's just kind of an endless cycle of just like consumerism, but with food. It's weird, isn't it? But the issue with this whole like need to keep the shelves full is that you just not all the produce is going to make it like days on the shelves, so it's gonna end up going rotten quicker versus just keeping the stock shelved to the amount where you know you can sell everything. So it's really sad, really. And all goes back to capitalism. So next is marketing. So I remember watching a video about this when I was in high school, when I was getting into like environmentalism and everything. And basically there's like a whole like psychology of like, is it marketing? I guess it wouldn't be advertising, it would be marketing. They basically know how to lay out a grocery store to get you to buy more, and just like even the path that it goes to, the order of food from like healthy at the start to like not so healthy in the back, so that by the time you get to the end of your shopping trip, you're less likely to make good decisions. Like which food they put where on the shelves, the idea of like, oh, if you buy 2 then it's like less. Like there's like different ways that grocery stores, and this is not just grocery stores but just stores in general, have a way of making you buy more than you need. And I think this does contribute to food waste, because even though as consumers we do have the responsibility to not buy more than we need, I think by grocery stores actually incentivizing wasteful consumerism, then they're partially at fault for that, you know? Like, yes, we should be more responsible, but I think if we're actually being pushed to, and not like brainwashed into it, but just kind of pushed in the direction of over-consumerism when it comes to food, which is literally just essential to live. Like, it's food. It's an apple. Why are you trying to make me buy 10 apples? I just need 2. I'm one person. Yeah, I do think that the kind of marketing psychology that grocery stores use to get people to buy more food, it does contribute to food waste and people buying more food than they need. And like I said, in the part 2, we are going to talk about consumers and how we ourselves contribute to food waste. So this is kind of a 2 sides of the same coin, but I did want to add it in this because I do think grocery stores do play a role in that. So now that we've talked about how grocery stores contribute to food waste, what exactly can be done about this? I come up with a couple, but if you have other ways that you think that grocery stores can do better, how we as consumers can not fall for the traps that grocery stores may set, and also how government or like cities can prevent food waste in grocery stores, just in general. Any other ideas, please leave them in the comments and we can have a fruitful discussion. Oh my god, that was a good pun. That's not even in my notes, it just came up. Damn. I'm gonna pat myself on the back for that one. So the first one is to just like embrace ugly food, you know? Like, an apple doesn't always have to be perfect, like the perfect apple shape. It can be a little wobbly. A carrot can have a little like twin growing out of it. You know, those kinds of fruit are actually adorable. Or like food that is smaller than normal or bigger than normal, that's also another culprit that ends up being thrown out. We should just embrace food looking different. Just like human beings, we all come in different shapes, sizes. It's all the same. It'll taste the same. So that's like, I think, the number one thing in all points of the process. We should just embrace food looking differently and not put a premium on food that looks like you're gonna eat it. You're gonna buy it and then eat it, hopefully within the week, so you don't have to throw it out. So what does it matter what it looks like, you know? Oh yeah, less of a focus on what the food looks like and more on the quality. Like I said, I am not in agriculture. I do not know how you can like tell the quality of a food, but I don't think it's only the shape. I'm sure it has more to do with like the color or like how it feels more than it does like the shape of it or the size of it. I don't think that's how you tell the quality of a food, but yeah, we should focus less on what it looks like and more on the quality. Next is giving away food that's expired. Not necessarily just expired. In fact, I take that out. Giving away food that's almost expired, because I think we can do better than just giving homeless people expired like moldy bread, you know? We can do way better. And I think if we did a better job of preventing food waste at earlier points and making sure that, let's say a frozen pizza's like sell by date is like a week or something, and the store doesn't think they're gonna be able to sell it, if they can just like, if we can put in systems so that this food can get to shelters and can get to families that need it before it can actually reach that sell by date, then I think that's going to do so much to get people high quality food, people in need high quality food, but also prevent food waste. Because like I said at the start of this video, the food waste issue isn't even just about the physical food, but it's also about the energy that went into creating this food. And that's just unacceptable to me, making all this food, using all this energy, having people go hungry, and then having the food go to waste anyways. Like, it's just too many struggles and we need to pick one. And the struggle I think we should pick is just putting in the systems. Like, once the systems are in, things will change. I think as a society, we're always, not even society, government are always so like, I don't know, there's just something about them doing things and putting in systems that everyone is asking for, where they're just like, oh, I don't want to do it, too much work. But then once you put in the system, then it just kind of runs itself. Like, things have to change eventually, and we can't continue on just throwing food away when there's people going hungry. So I'm currently living in Paris. If this is the first time you're watching this video and you don't know a little bit about me, I'm American, as you can tell from my accent, but I do live in Paris. And France actually has a law where they made it illegal to throw away perfectly good food. Instead, grocery stores do have to like basically give it away and get it to like shelters and stuff. And I'm not exactly sure the system. I think that could be a future video if you guys want. But yeah, I think it is important to get systems in place so that food that is perfectly good can go to people who need it. And a part of this is putting in laws that protect the stores, because oftentimes the excuse is always, oh, the food is like might not be safe to eat, so we just don't want to get sued. But I'm pretty sure, I don't know about here in the US, but I know in California and also in Canada, there's already laws in place to protect stores that do give out food, that give out food to like food banks and stuff, so that if it was bad, they don't get like, they're not liable, because I don't think they should be liable unless they're like knowingly giving away like bad yogurt and like changing the date on it. But if they're giving away food that they do believe is perfectly good food, then I don't think they should be liable if there's like an issue and someone like gets an allergic reaction or gets food poisoning, you know? If they're giving away perfectly good food, then like someone was gonna buy that food anyway. Just think about that. You wouldn't sue the store if you bought food that they believed was perfectly fine and you believed was fine when you were eating it. I don't think you can sue Walmart for that and you get food poisoning, unless they're like actually doing something on purpose and it's actually their fault. I don't know, I'm not a lawyer, but that is the first thing that we can do. The next one is packaging. I did want to touch on packaging earlier in the video, but I just kept forgetting to. But another component of food waste that we can't forget is the waste that's associated with packaging. And specifically, I'm not talking about packaging that's necessary. Some things do need to be wrapped up. Plastic is really sanitary right now and convenient. So there are certain things that I understand, yes, gotta be in plastic. Other things, like, yeah, we can push for more paper packaging. Like, sometimes the plastic parts of packaging is like unnecessary, but like understandable. Like cereal, could we just put it in paper boxes instead of doing the plastic then the paper? I don't know, I'm not a food scientist. There are, however, some cases of packaging that I just will never understand and I just cannot get over. I once saw russet potatoes individually wrapped in plastic. A potato, it comes with the packaging, it's a potato. Why do you need to wrap each potato in its own plastic wrap? And they were all like perfectly like the same, you know, like a baked potato, how it's like that perfect potato shape. So going back to the idea of like imperfect foods, whoever is like manufacturing these potatoes, they were throwing out potatoes that weren't the perfect baked potato shape. So they're two strikes against these people. But I just thought that was really unnecessary. Or like wrapping bananas in packaging, I've seen that. Oranges, like there's certain things that do not need to come in packaging. And if you could just push for for less packaging in these instances, and more of a push towards plastic-free options or packaging that is just more minimal, because honestly, most of the times this packaging is just unnecessary and it's just contributing to more waste, not necessarily food waste, but plastic waste that isn't. We don't need it. And I don't remember the specific law, but going back to France, I'm pretty sure they put they basically put a law pushing for manufacturers to package food in like the minimal amount of plastic packaging, which is amazing, because why? Like, isn't it costing them more money to put all this unnecessary plastic? And then last but not least, grocery stores can do more to incentivize plastic-free options. You know, we were just talking about plastic packaging, but also we need to get grocery stores to actually incentivize people to bring reusable bags and to have bulk sections and to have options for people to not have to put their food in plastic. And oftentimes people do buy their food not in packaging, but then they'll just put in that little plastic bag. Like, so close, you know? I know here in France, most grocery stores actually have paper bags that are available for you to put your produce in instead of the plastic ones, which is an improvement. If more people, like I said, I'm doing a part 2 with like individual actions, but that is something grocery stores can do, like have that paper option instead of the plastic. But also the number of times that I've been at a grocery store and they did not know how to subtract the weight of like the bag, or like if you're bringing a container, sometimes they don't know how to subtract the weight of the container. So you get there and you're like, I'm not gonna pay for the weight of the jar and the weight of like the beans I put in it. This is unnecessary. So grocery stores need to do more to train employees to be able to basically handle these kinds of more environmentally shopping options, and to incentivize it. and to promote it basically. Those are just some of the things that I think grocery stores can do to minimize food waste in their stores, but I'm sure there's so many more things that you guys have come up with, so if you could put them in the comments, that would be greatly appreciated. Thank you so much for watching this video. I really hope you guys enjoyed it, and if you did, of course subscribe. I would also like to support my patrons for supporting me and supporting my work. I'm going to have it linked in the description if you want to get some extra content. I'm going to be starting up my podcast again really soon, so if you want early podcast episodes and whenever I'm working on a video, I'm going to be posting like the research and articles and stuff like that. So if you want some extra things, you can follow me on Patreon. But I'm also going to have my Instagram and my I was gonna say Tinder, but no, my Instagram and Twitter linked down below if you want to follow me on there. That being said, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next video.